All right. So the Renaissance actually started in an urban place. It started in Italy. And Italy at that time was not so much as a farmland. It was an urban city. It was a city that had many things going on for it. Now, one of the things that it had going on is that it was the center of politics. So people had different ideas about the rules. And it was a place where they also talked about economics. So, how people were making money or how people could make money. And it also was a place where people started to interact with each other. So, social life, like having sports, having gatherings. It was definitely different from other cities and other countries. Okay. All right. So the Renaissance was also an age of discovery. Okay. Sorry, let me re-say that. The Renaissance was an age of recovery from all of the disasters that happened a century before. So when I say a century before, we're talking 100 years before this happened. And the disaster that occurred in the previous 100 years was plague, so a disease. The second reason is that there was a lot of political instability, and that was considered the 100 Years' War. So there was a lot of arguments amongst countries that created such conflict. And last, there was a decline of the church power. So back then, um, governments didn't necessarily have the power. Church did. So whatever the churches agreed or thought was best was how people followed the rules back then. All right. Now, characteristics of the Renaissance. When I use the word characteristics, we're going to talk about the way people thought back then. Okay? So these are things that really were different about this time. All right, number one, a new world view. The Renaissance really opened the mind of many thinkers, and they really had an interest for the classical, so what people in Greece and Rome were doing at that time, but it also sparked new interests. Number two, the Renaissance also had just this spirit of adventure and curiosity. Let's explore new things that haven't been explored. Okay? So this led people to explore new worlds or to re examine the old ones. For example, why is it that we do these things? Why is it that we can only go here? Why is there wind that only travels from here to here on these days? So they wanted to explore the new world and they wanted to re examine the old ones. Number three, there was an emphasis on education and humanism. Now, what's humanism? Well, humanism is a movement that focused on education and the classics. So people were curious, but not where they really wanted to have a balanced educational plan where they knew certain things. They focused on worldly subjects rather than the religious issues that had occupied medieval thinkers. So back then, people learned religion. That was their main focus, that was their education. But during this time, things like let's learn how to, let's learn about history, let's learn about science, let's learn about through literature. That was the beginning of that kind of thought. And we call that thinking and that movement humanism. All right. Now, why did the Renaissance begin? And why did it begin in Italy? Okay, so Italy, here's a map. If this is a map of Italy, just the countries of Italy, and a little bit of the surrounding area as well. And at that time, we had Hungary and the Roman Empire, but we're mostly going to be talking about here. Okay. Now, Italy is in Europe. Okay. So on this side somewhere, we have England and Spain. Okay. And the one thing you should do to remember where Italy is that it looks somewhat like a boot. Okay. Or the letter J. All right. So let's go back. So why did the Renaissance begin in Italy? Well, it had a new interest in ancient Rome. So it already wanted to learn about the Romans. And at that time, the Roman Empire was actually right next door, right? If we look at the map. Now, another reason why it began in Italy is because it had a center. There was a center of like all things that were happening. And the best way I can picture it is kind of like downtown LA. It's the center of so many things. We have businesses there. We have sports centers there. We have government offices there. We have police stations and departments there. It's the center of many things that are happening at that time. It also had agriculture. Sorry, not agriculture, architecture. So just like we have in downtown, we have those buildings too. It also, another reason why is because it had the Catholic Church. There was many places, many churches at that time, and that's another reason. And the last reason was trade. There was a lot of people who were selling and buying things there. Okay? And these things are important because it allowed for a lot of information and ideas to happen amongst all the people that were going to that center. All right, so the Renaissance also began in these specific states. So remember, we're talking about Italy. Here's that boot or that J. And the three main states in which all of this began was Milan, which is up here in the green, Venice, which is over here in the orange, okay, and Florence, which is like right here in the purple. Now, this is how these states looked like at that time. If we were to look at a map today, Milan, Venice, and Florence might be in different places on the boot, okay? So just to let you know, this is the map in the 1500s, okay? So all three of these states all played a crucial role in the Italian politics, so how rules were made at that time. And each Italian city-state was controlled by a powerful family, okay? And an example of this, of a powerful family at the time was Medici. Okay. All right. Oh, perfect. I'm done.